ding, and then another ding.
Yep.
And by the way, we are now live on Polygon Issuance number 70 for the 14th of August, 2015. And I'd almost mentioned, do you realize the second ding is actually recorded? I've heard that a few times on other things. So it's like, I don't like that. But now we've already gone off on a tangent already. But anyway, Jeff Wilcox here hosting with Mike Cox, who is in the lovely place of Bristol, Tennessee, where he's enjoying the thundery weather that seems to be very close to him.
Yeah, it's just to the east of me. There's a nice little thunderstorm. I haven't heard any thunder recently. That's a good thing. It looks like it was moving away, but it does. Storms around here this time of year don't move very fast, so it'll take it a little while to get out of here. It'll probably die before it gets too far away.
Yeah, because it's getting close to sunset now. Sunset's already passed there by now.
Yeah, it's dark. Sunset is generally speaking, August is 8:15. So yeah, we've got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah, it'll die soon. So
yeah.
But that's the current weather down there. Here, it's sunny, it's dry, it's hot, it's humid. The end for current weather. I mean, I saw heat indices around here, close to here today, that were near 100 again. It's typical of the Iowa State Fair down in Des Moines, which has started, that it's always hot and humid. And I said this, I think, to my parents last week or somebody, that I said, oh, it was so nice and cooler earlier this week here. And I said, I said, the minute the state fair starts in Des Moines, the temperature will shoot up, the humidity will shoot up, and it'll be hot and humid and horrid again. And it did. Surprise, surprise. Thursday was the first day of state fair, and it got hot and humid. Typical. But that's enough of the current weather. Outside of a couple of other things that we might discuss, like Godzilla El Nino, which we could discuss later. But we had a homework assignment from last week about the video of sweaty feet.
It wasn't just the feet.
It's sweaty everywhere.
Yes.
And it makes apparent sense, because last week we were going to talk about this, but now that it's gotten hot in a lot of places again, that probably we should bring it back up, because it's been really hot in Texas. The Northern Plains is starting to get hot. It's hot, very hot in the Southwest. It's been well over 110 in the Southwest again. So it's another case of we should probably now discuss this, because now it's hot again, because last week it wasn't really that hot.
Well, not really. It wasn't. I mean, even if it's not really that hot, you're going to have, I mean, if the sun's out, you're still going to have issues. It's just not going to be quite as bad. But if you keep somebody baking in a hot car for long enough, if it's, anything above 65, it's going to get pretty warm in there with the sun hitting off of all of the interior, especially if it's a dark car and dark interior. That'll make it even worse.
Yeah, and I noticed this, because this is probably going to go off on a tangent again, but my parents' car, because they bought a new car last summer, and it's a darker colored car, has a dark interior. It does not have tinted windows. Boom, there's a problem. When it has clear glass, the sun just goes right in.
Yep.
And the interesting thing is, and I noticed this past winter, if it's a sunny day and it's like 20 degrees outside, when we're driving in that car, we do not need to turn the heat on.
Oh, yeah.
The sun does it for you.
Yep.
But you have to turn on the air conditioner even if it's only 70 outside, unless you just open the windows. Because it gets so hot so quickly, even if you've been out of the car for like a half an hour, at 70 degrees in a car that has clear glass. Now, if it's tinted, it is slightly better. Slightly. Doesn't mean you should just say, oh, well, I'll just put my pets and my kids in there. No, you shouldn't do that at all. I mean, tinted glass, it will reflect some of the sun back. But clear glass, it gonna come right in. And and in this case, the video that we're discussing from Carrie Copello, who's right now still in Albany, Georgia, but she's going to be doing some work in Macon now.
Mm-hmm.
But she did a thing, and I believe it was clear windows, from what I can remember.
Yeah, I think it was. Most of the video was shot from inside with her, so I don't. Yeah, I think it was pretty much clear windows. It was a station vehicle, so you know you wouldn't imagine it would have limo tent on it or anything like that. That would be kind of weird.
Well, yeah. I mean, most cars lately, at least in the last couple of years, it seems like you either get a very light tinted windows or you just get clear glass.
Yeah.
You don't get like the darker type windows you used to get back maybe 5-10 years ago that were standard. Or at least on some cars, you can still get tinted windows on some standard cars. It depends, but yeah, but she got into this car in the video, and it was like what, 90 something degrees outside.
It was 95 outside and 90 in the car when she started. And when she did this, she had EMTs all around the car, and there was one camera person outside too, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
But if she would have started acting funny, if anything would have happened, they would have been in the car in a jiffy to get her out of there. So it's not like she was just, sitting out there doing this. And basically, if you watch the video, all it is she's sitting in there talking about how hot it is and what it's doing to her. She talks about how she's starting to sweaty and all that stuff. And every once in a while, the EMTs would make her do her blood pressure and take her pulse and all of that stuff, and she'd report that to them. That's pretty much the whole 20 minutes. The big thing was about 15 minutes in. It was about 115, I want to say. Yeah. Somewhere between 115 and 120. She was looking outside. She could see the guys standing outside where it's 95 degrees and start sweating, because you do that when you're in Southwest Georgia and it's almost 100 degrees. It was pretty close that day. And she started making fun of them because they were sweating out there. And that, I guess, made her realize we need to have her on the show one of these days and grill her about it. But that's another topic for another day too. But she looked down and saw sweat pouring off of her leg, basically.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that kind of thing is going to happen. But it had never crossed my mind that it would happen that way, And she lifted up her foot up on the dashboard of the car, or close to the dashboard, whatever. And you could see on the video sweat dripping off of her shoe, and that stunned me. I guess maybe it's because I'm old enough I should have kids by now. I don't know. But when I saw that, I just kept thinking of the kids in the car. They're probably strapped into that little seat that they put them in to keep them safe in the car.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff is happening to them. It's probably worse because they're little. And what's going through your mind if you're 5 years old, strapped in a car, and you've got sweat coming out of you like it was with her? That I just kept thinking about that, and she's on the video. She's laughing, oh, that's gross, all this stuff. I'm sitting there with hand over my mouth just thinking about all of that from a second ago, and it blew me away. I mean, it really did. And it's just, I'm not ever going to forget that, because it's hard to imagine that. And I mean, she got out after 20 minutes. It was 123 degrees, and the temperature had stopped going up at that point. And so she stopped after about 20 minutes. She told me later she could probably have been there for 10 more minutes. I'm thinking, no, I don't know if I'd do that or not, because she told me she was getting sleepy toward the end too. And I thought, I don't like the sleepy, because if you're in a situation like that and you get sleepy and you fall asleep,
The likelihood is you may not wake up.
Exactly. And so I thought all of that together, and it was stunning for me to watch that and to think of all of that other stuff. So whenever, and I'm going to have kids one of these days, I'm sure, whenever that happens, I will think of that video. I'll be like, make 100% sure everybody is out of the car before I lock it.
Yeah.
Because it's just, and that's why I wanted people to watch it more than anything else. I've shared it on Facebook, and I think I might have even retweeted it. It's been a couple of weeks ago, but that's why I did that, because people should see that. I'm not going to say this is a must see, or if you care about your children, you should watch this video. I'm not going to say anything like that, because that's hype and overblown and annoying, because people say, if you believe in this, you must share this. No, I don't have to share anything to prove nothing to nobody.
No.
Pardon the double negatives there, but you get the point. But that's why I shared that on my Facebook, is because it'll really make you think, and that's what those things are supposed to do.
Now the first thing I thought of, and I just thought of this again, is we talk about the temperature in the car, but what we forget a lot of the time, and I don't think they thought of this at the time, so she might have to do this again. I hope not right away. The heat index. What was the heat index in the car? The temperature was 123. The heat index could have been much worse.
Yeah.
Because that is the temperature the body feels. Body doesn't feel the 123. It was 120. It was 121 in Death Valley yesterday. But the humidity is like 10%. So it feels like 100. I mean, 100 is 100 is 100, but
yeah.
But my guess is, from all the sweat that she's sweating, where do you think it goes? The sweat is stuck in the car, so it's moistening up the atmosphere of the inside of the car. So it's making it even worse, because all this sweat is becoming moisture. And that
probably helps. And that's probably the reason why the temperature didn't keep going up, because of
the humidity was going up. Because and this is interesting, because this is a good weather topic, because as temperatures go up, if it's dry, the temperature goes up faster. But as it moistens up, the temperature will slowly stop, and then it won't go up. And in some cases, it may start to go back down, only because the humidity levels are coming up. So in turn, the temperature may start to go down, but the heat index is going up. So in turn, it's going to feel hotter, but the temperature may be 4 or 5 degrees cooler, but the humidity levels will be much higher. And I think that's something they probably should have thought about, but I don't think they thought of it at the time. Yeah. But 123 is 123, but 123 in Death Valley is different than 123, say, in Albany, Georgia, as a heat index.
Oh yeah. And one of the things I thought of that they didn't do is have a and you may not be able to do, if it's that warm, you may not be able to do this. It just occurred to me. But to have some sort of a way to measure her body temperature through all of that, to see what that was doing, how close to that baseline, how close to that baseline you're going to die if you hit 104, how close was she getting to that? That would have been interesting to see too. But
yeah,
I wouldn't say, go do this again to anybody.
No.
Just watch the video. Here's what happened. You don't have to redo it anytime ever, because it's going to be the same way until they make some sort of glass that deflects more of the sun or something like that.
But you can still see out.
Yeah.
But there is such glass, but it's so expensive, and you don't want to have cars that cost like thousands of dollars because of that. But still, even if you have that, that's almost like saying, oh, well, we can put our kids and our pets in the cars for hours. We don't want that. I don't
No.
care if the glass is completely black and there's no sun, and I'm going off again. Even if there's no sun, if it's, let's say, like a mostly cloudy day, it may not get as hot, but it's going to get hot anyway. It may just take a tad bit longer because it doesn't matter. The sun rays are going to get through no matter what. The UV rays.
And a lot of it too, it's not just the windows, but a lot of the heat comes from the sun hitting the car. I mean, it's a metal car, for Pete's sake. And another thing that maybe would change, and I know Jacob Wyckoff did this a couple of years ago, and I don't know what color his car is, but I think Carrie's car was white, the one she was sitting in. I wonder if it's worse, and I believe it will be, if you're sitting in a red car like mine or maybe a black one. I guarantee you're going to see more. You're going to see close to 130. I won't guarantee it, but I'd be willing to say it's a safe bet that 130 is attainable if you have a jet black car.
Now, my parents' car is amethyst gray, and it has a black interior. And like I discussed earlier, it always seems to get really hot in there, even if it's a cold day. So I wouldn't doubt it probably can get really hot in there, way above 100, at least up to 130. I'm not going to try it. I might take my little thermometer thing and do it and just say, I'm not getting in the car. I'm just going to let the thermometer do it for me.
Yeah. And then put a GoPro in front of it so you can see it from your nice air-conditioned office.
But still, I mean, I'm not going to try it. I mean, today would have probably been a good day to do it because at least here it was in the 80s. The dew point was in the mid to upper 60s. Nothing like Albany, Georgia, but our humidity is slightly different because of a lot of corn and soybeans and whatnot. So we tend to have slightly higher humidity levels, but not as high temperatures as they do down in southern Georgia. But I could even do it in, say, September when it's like 70 degrees, and it would probably, I wouldn't get 130, but I would probably get 100 easily, or at least 110. So there's ways to do that, but I wouldn't want to try it with, like Carrie did, with humans in the car anymore. I mean, people will still do it as kind of like a test, but as long as there's like EMTs and people around. So
yeah, and she was really smart with that because she pretty much had as much help as she could possibly have there. And I mean, in the console of the car was I think it might have even been in the driver's seat, was the blood pressure monitor. She had the cuff on her arm, which that might have made her warmer too. And then on the other hand, she had the pulse thing on her finger. So she was well aware of everything that was happening, and she was a soccer goalie, so athletes are well tuned with their bodies anyway, especially if you're a soccer player.
We forgot to mention that she was an athlete in college. So there's different aspects that somebody like in her condition, I would assume she's still somewhat athletic because she looks like she still is. She keeps herself fit. So, I mean, we're talking about somebody who's in their, late 20s, mid-late 20s.
Yeah.
I don't want to start saying she's like older than she is because I don't want her to have come up here and punch me in the face. But anyway, I mean, then we talk about her because she's a fit lady. Yeah. Well, not everybody in this country is that way. So it's different for people that are not that way.
Exactly.
So I mean, I could literally say I'm probably not fit. I mean, I'm slightly overweight, but I tend to just get hot even if it's not terrible. Because right now I have my air conditioner on, and my temperature in my apartment right now is 80, and I have to have my air conditioner on because otherwise I'll start sweating in my own apartment just for no reason. I don't know why.
Speaking of, let me turn my camera on here. Speaking of 80 degrees, I have a thermometer in my office just for this.
It's the same
just for this kind of thing. It's 80 degrees in here. Of course, I've turned my fan off, and the door is shut because there's still people in the building. Figures the two times I do this show, there are people in the building, and I have to shut my door. But that's typically how my office works. I mean, I have big windows over here, and in the summer, about this time of year, if I don't have a fan running or something, it will be 75 or 77, 78, even sometimes 80 degrees in my office. And in the winter, it's the other way around. It's cold coming through the window, and it's going to end up being 82. But in the winter in this office, sometimes it's like 56 in here. So it's just crazy how it, the big swings. But back to Carrie's thing, that was just one of those things. She had it well set up with, making darn sure if anything happens, if she started acting funny or whatever, that somebody was going to get her out of that car. So it was pretty well set up, and I'm sure the station, who probably had the idea, was part of the make sure you've got certain people here, and here, just to make sure if something happens. So if any other meteorologist would do something like this, she did it the right way. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of other things they could have done that, would have added more information to the thing, but she did a really good job with it. And I have told her that in both on and offline settings, that or public settings, I guess, that she did a really good job with that. And I'm still, every time I think about it, I'm still stunned by that one scene. It's got to be 15 or 30 seconds, maybe not even that long, where she's showing that and taking videos of it and all that. But that's the climax of that video, is watching her do that. And it's just stunning to me. It just really is.
Yeah, it when I watched it, it was kind of, I thought, ugh, that's just gross and whatnot.
Which is what she said.
Yeah, and the thing is that, and this type of stuff with kids or pets in the car, it just happens all the time. I mean, I think people, it's a case of all these people today are like, go, got to get somewhere, got to go right now. The commercial, gotta go. Everybody's like in a hurry. They don't have time to check back seats or time to check where things are. And I think it's just, honestly, I think it's going to get worse. I don't see it getting better. I mean, I could lead this back into like tornado warnings. You could tell people a tornado is coming, but you can't be the one to then take their arm and take them to shelter. Same case with people in leaving kids or pets in the car. You can't be the one to then go and tell them your kid or your pet is still in the back seat, get them out of there. I have a feeling it's going to end up being a social science thing, because I think everything regarding all the tornado warning stuff, you could say the same thing for like winter storms, the heat in cars. It all transitions into that, because you have the same problem. People are either too busy, which seems to be the case lately, or they want a confirmation, like for tornadoes, and they're not going to do anything. So you're not going to do anything until let's say you have 3 children. You won't do anything until you lose one of your children due to keeping him in a car. That's just irresponsible.
Yeah.
And the same case could be if a tornado is coming at you. I don't care if you see it or not. You need to do something. Don't be irresponsible. And because and we're going off on a tangent, because I'm going to try to keep this on time. You should not, because there's too many meteorologists and there's several, when they say all these people died. Well, it's not your fault that they died. if they were not responsible for themselves, you shouldn't be responsible for their irresponsibility.
Yeah.
Whether or not they had the warning or not. I mean, some people will die because that's their time. They're going to die. You shouldn't be worried about people who were irresponsible or didn't know what was happening, because they should have known darn sight better during some of these outbreaks when people were being warned days in advance something was coming. Not everything is, quote, it came without warning, unquote. Sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it's not. If a heat wave is coming, you're going to know, don't put your kids or your pets in the car and leave them there. If you do that, then you are so irresponsible, because it's almost, and I'm going to be very political at this point, if you're going to be like that, you shouldn't have kids or you shouldn't have pets, because it's evident that you're not responsible enough to have them. If you want to email me about that, I'm not going to leave my email for that, because but it's true. I mean, if you're too busy, then I mean, I'll just leave it at what I said, because it just kind of irritates me that seems to happen, no matter if it's heat in the car, tornadoes, winter storms, whatever. It all's the circle. It's all into a circle. But so if you want to, if there's anything else with Carrie's video, we can move on to the Godzilla story.
The one thing I wanted to say, I'm pretty much done with Carrie's video, other than that she just did an amazing job with it. You were talking about people having a hard time with when people are killed in severe weather. I had that problem. I had that problem 4 years ago. Yeah. This time of the year, 4 years ago, I wasn't talking about that outbreak. I couldn't sit through a conversation about it. If they were talking about it on Weather Brains, I'd turn it off, because I couldn't handle it. And it took me a long time, and a couple of people kind of, saying some stuff that I needed to hear, not necessarily stuff that I wanted to hear, but it took a while for me to kind of get, I don't want to say get over it, because you don't just get over something like that, but to
move on.
Yeah, to move on. It's kind of a heartless way to put it too, but there's no other, I don't think there's any other way to put it. But to just kind of pick up and carry on with yourself from something like that, because I've lived in Bristol, I think, it's been Bristol all my life, and that's way over 3 decades. And I don't ever remember before April 27th, 2011, anybody around here dying in a tornado, ever. I mean, I know there are records that will refute that, and that's namely because before 2006, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention. But I had never heard of one person really even being injured in a tornado in this part of Tennessee and in Southwest Virginia, where all these mountains are. And not saying that mountains will keep tornadoes from happening. It helps, or they help. But anyway, it's just something that doesn't happen around here. And for the number to be 14, and to pretty much know about that number the next morning, all but one of them, I didn't handle that well. And maybe in the future, heaven forbid it happens again, but it probably will. Maybe in the future, I'll be able to handle it better, because I've been through it once. First time that happens, that's the really, really hard one, is when it's your first time trying as hard as you can to get people to go where they need to go to be safe from these things. And of course, I had my own problems with it, with power outages and, radar outages and all that stuff that I had to deal with over here that night. But after a while of talking to the right people, it got better. And that's the thing. You got to have support. And I've had at least 3 meteorologists that have helped me. I'll say 4. That have helped me a lot with that. And that's what you got to do. You got to reach out to people. If you know somebody posts something on Twitter about feeling bad about it or something, go say something. like what Jeff just said, you can't hold their hand, stuff's going to happen. It's going to be their time, You can't have a perfect record forever.
Yeah.
And it's very important, and there are a lot of meteorologists in this field that do that, and I for one am thankful for that, and I keep an eye out every time something happens to see how, especially if I know there are new people in various places, I try to watch that to just see if I can lend a helping word or something, because it was done for me, and I'm really, really thankful for it. But that's when you said that about people reacting to that, all of that came to my mind at one time.
Yeah, because it's happened when I've done severe weather coverage on the website that I have, the Iowa Weather Network. We've had tornado outbreaks here, which seem to be rare anymore, but we've had fatalities. There's been fatalities since if I go back to my way back when I started my weather blog in 2008, we have had fatalities. We've had a few. I mean, it's nothing like April 27th, because we don't have outbreaks like that anymore, it seems like. But that day is going to come again. There's going to be a tornado outbreak again. I don't know when. I don't know where. I don't know how many. We don't get like 60-some tornadoes like Alabama did that day. The most we've ever had is like 30 in a day or something like that. And most of those, and on that day, for example, they were fairly small and they didn't last very long, but there was a bunch of them. But people are going to die. I mean, people are not always going to be watching TV or on social media. Well, I mean, a lot of the people that from what I've heard that died weren't even on social media to begin with. And from what I can remember, the one storm last year, both people died in farms. And they were out, I believe, doing farm work, and the storm came up because it was in a squall line. Well, A, you're not going to see those storms, and B, if you're out in the farm doing farm work, you're not really paying attention to a radio, which didn't have a tornado warning on it to begin with, B, television, C, a radar, like radar scope or Gibson Ridge or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, those are the type of people that it more than likely is their time, because, I mean, not everybody is connected into the interwebs of the weather world. And there's some people that are just going to be caught off guard, and those people are just going to be the ones chosen. I mean, people are chosen, I guess, that it's their time to go from this earth. So I just don't, it's been 4 years, and I was lucky enough that I haven't been through major outbreaks like April 27th. I've had a lot of outbreaks that I can remember, and I'm starting to break up according to so I'm going to try to get this out before I either fall off or whatever. But I've been through several outbreaks, which luckily enough, tornadoes never got close to me. I've had a couple close, but I've at least been somewhat lucky, and at least I kind of feel grateful for it. But I sometimes feel when I see tornado damage that's like close. For example, and we're going off basis again, when the Joplin tornado hit, which was a month after April 27th, that storm hit me very hard. And the only reason was I was in Joplin, Missouri 4 weeks before that. And I drove down Rangeline Road, where the tornado crossed at about 20th Street and just flattened everything. I was on that road. I drove down that road. I saw all the buildings before the tornado came. I saw that all the trees that were there that now are no longer there. And after I saw that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I saw this building. I was like pointing at buildings that I knew where they were. And I'd only been in Joplin once, which was 4 weeks before that tornado. And that hit me very hard because there were so many people that were killed. And it made me think, my goodness, I felt like that maybe I shouldn't have been there. Maybe there was a reason I went there 4 weeks beforehand that we stayed my father and I stayed at a hotel that night in Joplin, was for me to see this place before it got destroyed. I don't know. That's just my thing. It just seems kind of freaky doing that. But that one hit me, and that wasn't even near here. Only because I had been there a couple weeks before. Now, for example, Alabama. I was in Alabama after April 27th, and I saw, even this was many months later, you can still see the damage around. But, I mean, and the only reason I wanted to see it for myself. But I'm not like these people who want to see it like 5 minutes after the tornado hits. I waited until November, and it was still there. The trees at least were. The houses had been fixed, at least some of them, or most of them at that point. But we're going off topic, and I don't want to start getting off topic and turning this into a 6-hour marathon again, even though, or whatnot. But speaking of the weather, yesterday, or this morning or something, Godzilla El Nino, they said, is coming.
Who is they?
They is in somebody, I think it was ABC said that or something. I saw it on the internet, and it was, I think, from an ABC station.
Wow.
And the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, this is like polar vortex and all this stuff. They're trying to make this El Nino, because it's going to be a strong El Nino. I think it's been pretty apparent this year we're going to have a strong El Nino.
Yeah.
Why do they need to describe it as Godzilla? Why do these news people need to keep saying billions in the path? Do they need to? It's going to be strong. The word strong El Nino makes the point. Godzilla makes it look like you're making fun of it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some big animal that's going to come and take over California, and it's going to climb the Capitol Records building. I think it's Capitol Records building in Hollywood, and go or whatever. Or that's King Kong, but still, I'm surprised they didn't use King Kong. They might as well have done that. I just don't understand. And I can connect it to the America's Next Weatherman show, which premiered on TBS last Saturday. It's almost like they're making fun of weather people or weather in general by putting in this show on TBS or putting in the word Godzilla to describe an El Nino. I mean, heck, I could describe that big explosion that was in that Chinese port as a Godzilla explosion because it pretty much destroyed the whole port. But would that describe what the explosion was? That it was Godzilla explosion? They make Godzilla sound like it's a verb or adjective.
Yeah.
I mean, people need to start learning English. Godzilla is not something to describe. Godzilla is a noun. Evidently, somebody at ABC or CBS, any of the networks for that matter, need to start going back to Schoolhouse Rock and start learning what a verb, a noun, and an adjective is. Because Godzilla is not an adjective.
Yeah. That I have gotten to the point with some of these things to where I don't even watch national news. I
don't either.
I go to my parents' house, and they always watch the 6 o'clock news, which is Channel 5, because the station's in Bristol. We live in Bristol, so there you go. Always the Bristol station, always the Bristol paper, always. But it'll be the 6 o'clock news on Channel 5, NBC Nightly News, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. Those 2 hours every single day. And it's gotten to the point where when the nightly news is on, I can't be in there more than 5 minutes before I have absolutely lost my mind at something stupid that somebody has said on NBC. And I know the other networks are the same way. We've heard it with ABC, and heaven knows CBS has had that problem. But I just give up. I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, I can hear on a 2-minute newscast on my radio station what's going on, and that's all I need to know. The rest of it can, I mean, go away, and I keep it away because I just can't handle it, especially political anything. You know, I just let other people handle it. I figure out early on who I'm going to vote for, and if he was arrested for public urination on a police car when he was 21 and he was drunk, so be it, because that was probably 30 years ago. Who really cares? So most of the stuff that the media wants you to think is a really big deal isn't a really big deal. Have we had El Ninos before? Yeah. What was it? 99 was a big one, I think.
The last strong one was 97, 98, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah, 97, 98. That was right as I was graduating high school. How many? I mean, we're all still here. The planet is still here. 15 years later, 17 years later, it's all still here.
Yeah.
So I don't understand it. And like I said, I've gotten to the point where the only way I hear anything about anything the national media does is usually if I hear it on a show like this one, where somebody walks in after their newscast and sees something absolutely stupid being broadcast on the national news. That's the only way I hear about it, because I just don't watch it anymore. And especially not the 24-hour news channels. You can forget that. CNN, Fox News, I'll throw them all under the same bus and run over them a couple of times because they're all the same way. And great example of that, and we're rambling again here, but when all of this stuff was happening with Martha Stewart, I still don't know the whole story, and I don't care. But I was watching Fox News one day, and I don't even remember how long this has been. Had to have been 10 years by now. But they had a Fox News alert for Martha Stewart walking in a courthouse. A person walks into a building, and that is a news alert. No. I don't care. If the Pope is walking into the courthouse, it makes no difference to me. And that kind of stuff just got me out of watching national news altogether. And I don't watch local news very much either. But at least they're a little bit better with certain things. But yeah, over the course of the past few years, I've just shut off national news altogether.
Yeah, I'm going to share this. This is from the LA Times.
Oh, well, Los Angeles. That's all you need to know about that.
Yeah, but this was on here. And the person that did it was Bill Patzer, who's a climatologist with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in La Cañada, Flint Ridge in California. That's what he's describing it. First thing I'm thinking of, yes, he's in California. It ended up on ABC News.
But he's with NASA, though. Yeah. I mean, you've got to... I don't want to be overly critical here, but if you have a job like that, there's no need to make nomenclature like that. That's what I'm trying to say. Just, I mean, because what if it's really bad? 97, there it is.
Yeah, this is 97, and this is this year.
All survived. So, if the same thing happens this year, so be it. I mean, it's not going to be all that bad. But, you know, I just don't understand why official people, and I think the name Superstorm happened because of an official person saying it too. And you know how the media got up and ran with that with Sandy. So I just wish people would be more careful about how they say things, because all the media wants is a quick soundbite. Superstorm Sandy, that went crazy. And now this Godzilla El Nino, I mean, why didn't they just make, I don't know. They could have named it, there should be a Spanish name for Godzilla.
Heck, they could have named it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The Weather Channel hasn't named it yet. El Nino, that's not good enough. We need to name the El Nino something like Adam or something.
Yeah, name all the El Ninos.
And the La Ninas get girl names. And the El Ninos get boy names.
There you go.
That's
That would work.
and then they say, well, during strong El Ninos, this happens. And they mention that, and you have to think about it because they're saying, well, Godzilla El Nino's coming. So then they're saying, well, what's going to happen? Well, you can't even get the forecast 7 days out right. How the heck are you going to know what the weather's going to be doing in Christmas or January?
Yep.
I mean,
that's another thing I don't find that I don't look at too fondly is seasonal forecasts, and especially the Farmer's Almanac.
Oh, yes. I could bring mine out because I have it. But
there's actually a radio show called the Farmer's Almanac Radio Report that, ironically enough, we're starting on one of my stations on Monday. But I've listened to that show before, and it's not a lot of, over the course of the year, there's going to be a wet period in such and so area, and it's going to be warmer than normal here and more snow up there, and it doesn't do that. So that's the main difference. But I've seen Farmer's Almanacs since I was little, and every time I had to have been 5 years old the first time I saw one at my uncle's house, and I'm thinking, how do they know this?
They don't.
I've taken classes in meteorology, and I'm still asking that question. So that's one more thing I pay no attention to.
I'll say this. The first Farmer's Almanac I ever got was 1993. The 93 one. So
Ooh.
92. 93 was a flood year.
Did they predict the flood?
No. They said we were going to have a average precipitation summer. We had the most rain in the summer period ever. So that was not correct. Did that stop me from getting the Farmer's Almanac? No, I got it every year since, except for 1 year.
And see, I'm not trying to bash the people that do those, because I could do a winter forecast right now, and it's going to be totally wrong. Do what?
They already did because of the Godzilla El Nino. They said what the weather is going to be like during the winter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I myself could do one, and it would not be worth broadcasting or putting on a blog or whatever. There's just, I understand why they try to do it, because, and a lot of it is because of farmers, and I understand that because farmers need to know how to prepare. But like you said, 7 days. We don't have the foggiest notion what's going to be happening on Friday, August the 21st, when all the high school football games start up about 166 hours from now. We don't know that. We have a general idea. It might be raining for the NASCAR race on Saturday next week. It might be raining. Of course, it's possible because it's August in Tennessee. But we don't know. We don't know that far. So I have a hard time even trying to look into seasons in the future. That I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and you could also say the same thing about where's a thunderstorm going to form on an afternoon in the summer? Where's it going to form? When is it going to form? Where's it going to move?
Exactly.
I mean, the same problem. For example, they said on this thing that temperatures would be cooler than normal in the south. Because it's going to be wetter, and warmer in the north. Well, in the winter. So the first thing I'm thinking of is, oh, I'll take that because I don't want 10 below zero. But this leads me back to what happened during the last strong El Nino, 97, 98. What happened in 97? Here. October. We started October 1997 here in Iowa. It was in the 80s. We had record high temperatures. So, of course, the warmer than average. 3 weeks later, we had a crippling snowstorm right before Halloween. Dumped 7 inches of snow. Remember, 3 weeks before that, 80 degrees, 80, 85, record high temperatures. What happened? The leaves did not fall off the trees in time. So we still had partial foliage on almost all the trees.
Yeah.
It was way later because most of the trees by Halloween are almost all the leaves are gone. Not that year. The leaves were still there. So what happens when you have snow? And this was wet snow, 6, 7 inches of snow. And in some cases, there was 10 in some areas. all the trees came down. I had no school for 2 days because, and this was in October, we had a snowstorm. And then we didn't have another snowstorm for like almost a month and a half. It was just one of those freak things. So, I mean, you could say it's going to be like this. It only takes like a hurricane in a below average year like in the Atlantic, like Andrew in 92.
Yeah.
It only takes one event to make you completely say this thing is stupid, warmer than average temperatures. On that, it snowed in October. I mean, it's the case. It only takes one, and it could just completely screw everything up because people are going to remember that one event. They're not going to remember the rest of the winter or the fall. They're going to remember the one event that was completely abnormal and say that was what happened in the fall or winter or whatever. I mean, it's that case all the time. I just think this year, I would say this would be my winter weather. There'll be some cold days. There'll be some warm days. There'll be some snow. There might be some ice. There might be some sun. There might be some clouds. There's my forecast. You could say the same thing for anywhere else in the country, even in the South, because it may snow, it may not. It may rain, it may not. In the South, you may have to add the word thunderstorms. There might be severe weather, there may not be. You might get an ice storm, you may not. You may get a little bit of snow, you may not. I know down in Chattanooga, I think Paul Barris, who's down there, he does winter outlooks every year, and they're on YouTube. And I've looked back at those, and he has been close. He doesn't do them like in August. I think he does them in like October. But he has been fairly close. He pretty much says, are we going to have enough more snow in Chattanooga than normal? I think in Chattanooga, anything snow is like not normal. But they do get snow, but not a lot. But you'll get it, especially in the mountains, you'll get a lot of it. But
yep.
In Chattanooga, you'll get snow. A couple inches, I think he said 4 or 5 is normal, which seems appropriate because it's a mountainous area. Some, especially on the mountains. And he's always said would be above average. Well, above average could be 1 inch more, and he'll be like, yay! But he's been pretty accurate. I think he takes it somewhat seriously. And if he screws up, he says he does. So at least he if he says he screwed up, he more or less says I screwed up.
Yeah.
But I just would. A lot of people don't do that, especially TV people. I know he does, but people sometimes want to know. I mean, you could have one snowstorm. Could all it could take is one snowstorm, and it could be dry or rainy the rest of the year, and you'll have above normal snow from one storm. You could have a storm on the 1st of February, dumps 10 inches of snow in Chattanooga, and have no more snow the rest of the year, and Chattanooga is above average.
Yep.
Same case anywhere here, anywhere. It's the case of it only takes one. But I don't like the Godzilla thing. The America's Next Weatherman show, blech, I did not watch. I assume you didn't either, and I don't think much of anybody else did either.
I was too busy watching Frasier on Netflix.
But yeah, I don't. I'm not gonna watch it, but I've heard I know some people have watched it, and we might be seeing them in NWA, but we'll have to wait and see about that. So, other than that, I don't think we have much of anything else. Since we'll try to go another 8 minutes before we shut it down or whatnot.
Well, we could talk a little about NWA, I guess, since it's now pretty much official that I'm going.
Yeah, Mike, who's with me, is going to NWA with myself and Henry, who's been on co-hosting some shows before. And here's the shocker: we're all going to be staying in the same room.
That's going to be dangerous.
That's going to be trouble. We may end up having Polygon episodes in the middle of the night if we can't. And then if Mike is going to go out to dinner with other people, we're going to make him record that for a Polygon.
No.
No, we don't get inside scoops, but I haven't seen anything about a schedule about what's going to be when, where. I thought they were going to have that by now.
They usually don't do that until
September.
I think early September, maybe even the middle of September.
Well, they got.
And this one's going to be pretty big because it's in Oklahoma City. It's the 40th, and everybody's going to want to be there. So they probably had a lot of submissions for all of the sessions and stuff. So
Yeah,
that's going to be. I wish I could go on the golf outing on Saturday. I'm going to be.
that Betsy Kling does.
Yeah, I'm going to be traveling in. I want to carry the bag just once for one of those. I mean, I know they probably use golf carts, but still, I want to be a caddy for like the whole group just so I can watch, because there have been some legendary happenings relating to the golf tournament and golf things that have happened during the golf tournament before that I would enjoy watching that.
Yeah, Henry and I will be traveling that day down.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get in until probably late or at least early evening at this point. So that's for you to know that. So
yeah, the interesting thing about this one, when I went to the first meeting I went to was Birmingham. It was my first time in Alabama.
2011, by the way, for those that don't know.
Yeah, 2011. 2 years later in 2013, it was my first time A, in South Carolina, and B, my first vacation ever where I didn't travel Interstate 81 for the entire trip, because you just take 26 out of Johnson City straight to Charleston.
Yeah.
And this one will be my first, unless I take one to Atlanta just to see how it works before then. First time off the ground in an airplane. So that'll be interesting.
Now, the first thing I'd ask is, A, are you going to fly out of Tri-Cities, or are you going to drive to another airport?
I'm going to fly out of Tri-Cities because the last prices I looked at, which I'll have to look at again after I pay for registering for the conference, I figured it out. It's crazy how this worked out. If I would have flown out of Charlotte, not counting the gas it would take me to get there, which is about $20 worth, the flight would have cost me $304. If I had driven from here to Oklahoma City and paid for the valet parking at the hotel, it would have cost me $305. And flying out of Tri-Cities Airport to Oklahoma City with a 3-hour layover in Charlotte is $306. So there you go. So my options are pretty much fly out of here or fly out of here at this point, because I don't want to drive 14 hours. I drove 8 going to Birmingham, and in my vacation I talked about last week when I went to Atlanta and went through Alabama part of it, I drove 900 miles in 2 days for that, and I'm not inclined to do that again unless I absolutely have to. So flying out of here is going to be interesting. I may actually take a test run and go to the airport and walk around it just so I know what I'm doing, because I've been in that airport a grand total of 2 times.
The best thing, I could go on this because we have time, on flights. I thought I'll never get to fly anywhere. I have flown in, here are the airports I've been in and flown to or flown through, as in connecting. I have flown to Washington, D.C. Reagan Airport, D.C. Reagan, Newark, Denver, L.A., Atlanta, Moline, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, O'Hare, Dallas, Birmingham. I think that's it. I have to think some more. That's it. Yeah. So I've been to the busiest airport in the world, Atlanta. I've been to L.A. I've been to Chicago, Denver, Dallas, Newark. I mean, I've been everywhere. And O'Hare, and Reagan National in Washington, D.C. I've gone everywhere. And wow. I'm like, I'll never get to fly. And I counted them up one time, and I think I've been on 20 flights. So it's so simple, but the first time getting off the ground, you feel. I thought luckily it was clear, and there was I have not had a flight that went through a thunderstorm or rain yet, thank God, because that would have probably scared me a little bit. I have flown on a plane that landed in Denver during a snowstorm.
No.
I have witnessed that, and that was not good. because we were about to land and they had to lift the plane back up and abort it. And did that scare the crap out of me, because I thought we were then going to crash. And this was flying into Denver because we were connecting. It was my father and I. We were connecting in Denver to then go to LA. And that was in February many years ago. And I'm like, never again. And they had to de-ice the plane. The only time that trip was Des Moines to Denver to LA, and then back to Denver, and then back to Des Moines, where I had to watch them de-ice the plane. That was the first time I'd ever seen that. The other times were in the spring or summer or in the fall, but that kind of gave me the willies. Of course, the planes you would be on would be the regional jets, I'd assume, right? From what I saw.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, try doing that on like an Airbus A320 or a Boeing 757. I've been on MD-80s, Airbus A320s, Boeing 757s. I think I've been on a Boeing 737 too. I've been on regional jets. I've been on the small little jets, the bigger jets. I've been on pretty much about everything. It's interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I'll have it. It'll be interesting for me. I have purchased for the first time ever actually my own luggage. I used to borrow, suitcases and stuff from family everywhere I went, including the last 2 NWA meetings I've been to. This time I have my own. And it's the kind that has the little, you push the button on the handle and the handle pulls up and you can roll it along behind you. So I'm happy about that. And it's huge. So it's going to fit a lot of stuff in it. So that's going to be good. I'm looking forward to testing that thing out.
Now the problem you're going to have is when you get to Oklahoma City to Will Rogers, you're going to have no clue what you're doing when you get there.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So and that's the thing. When I flew, and we're going off topic again, but heck, we have time a little bit. When I flew, the first time I ever got on a plane, we were going to the race at Talladega. And we didn't want to drive there, so we flew there from Des Moines to Dallas and then to Birmingham, and then Birmingham, Dallas, Des Moines. We got to Dallas, and the Dallas airport has the monorail, the rail system that goes around that takes you from terminal to terminal to terminal. And I thought that was the neatest thing. So the next time I was on a plane, I purposely had a stay for 2-hour layover in Dallas, and then we decided to use the train, the terminal thing. We used that as like a ride because it's free. So it's like we went around the entire airport like twice doing that because it's like fun. It's like it's something to do. It's like let's just go around and around and around and see all the planes because that's the best thing. So it's on the outside. So you get a view of the planes taking off. You get a view of planes like right next to you or something. But it's so neat. Some airports. I know Atlanta has the underground thing. They have the underground one at Atlanta, and then they have the above ground one that takes you to the parking lot and the rental car facility, both of which I've been on. And then I know what LAX, the LA airport, is going to build one in a couple of years. They haven't built it yet. But LA's airport, it's so weird because when we were there in LA, the interesting thing about that airport, and this is weather related, you have the runways. If you'd look at a Google map, there's the runways, then there's sand dunes, and then the Pacific Ocean. So the airplanes are going right up over the ocean. They all take off going west. They do not go east because that's all residents, and you don't do that. They land from the east. They take off to the west. But the best thing about that is we stayed at a hotel about a mile from the airport, and we had a view. If you went to the pool, which I did when we were there, the pool was outside, and you could be at the pool and you could watch planes almost not quite. They were off in the desert, maybe about a quarter of a mile north of me, but they were maybe about 1,000 feet above where I was because the pool was like on what would be considered the 3rd floor, and it was like an 8 or 9 story hotel. And you could see the planes. You could read them. You could look inside the windows. It would be so cool just looking at that, because I purposely did that because I wanted to see the airplanes. You didn't
Yeah.
need to go to the airport to look, because there used to be before terrorism happened, you could sit at a parking lot and watch planes land at airports. Can't do that now. So why not just do it at a hotel? You can just watch the planes land. And the same thing we did when we went to O'Hare. This was 2 years ago. There's a hotel at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, which is the Hilton. And it has a view of the runways all over the place. Doesn't matter which direction you're looking, east or west, you'll see the airport. And that hotel is so expensive, but it just happened to be the night we were there because we drove into O'Hare and we were going to fly out to go to Washington, D.C. And it was so cheap, we're staying there. We'll park the car in the airport parking lot, take the monorail, which goes right to the hotel, which is right on airport grounds. And we had like a 6 or 7 story hotel room. We could see planes land, and we didn't even need to go to a parking lot and watch them. We could watch them out the window. It's the best thing. You could watch storms come in if it was a stormy day, which it wasn't that night. But oh, that was the best. That was just, and I went off on topic, so I'm sorry. But anyway. But yeah, NWA will be interesting. Probably there'll be severe weather because of Godzilla El Nino.
Let's see. It'll be in what, mid-October?
17th is the Saturday.
Yeah.
Or Sunday or someday. I don't remember. It's
17th is a Saturday.
Yeah.
That's when the golf tournament and that extra thing about climate change and 48 other things happened before. The 18th is when all the sessions start, and they'll go through the 22nd. Unless, of course, our government decides to pull another trick like they did the last 2 years and decide that the Weather Service people can't go, in which case...
The Weather Service people in Norman would probably still go.
Yeah. But in which case, you'll probably see us leaving at about noon. In Birmingham, when everybody was there, we were there until 5 o'clock on Thursday. Yeah. That was the end of the last session. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of people there for the last session. I was there because I figure if I'm going to be there, I'm going to watch everything.
You get your money's worth.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, an interesting little tidbit on the Charleston meeting, that it ended at noon on Thursday. And I, of course, am driving back up through the mountains. And I got in the mountains about 4 o'clock, I guess. Maybe a little later than that. And the fog was already starting to settle. I mean, this is October in the mountains, so it happens. So I knew if the meeting would have gone 5 more hours, I might have been a little bit of trouble getting back home, going across 26, coming back into Tennessee. But so it was a good thing that got kind of shut off at 12 or 1 or whatever it was, and was able to get out of there a little quicker.
The thing you have to worry about is, since you're flying back, you have to fly back when the plane wants to go. So you may have to miss the last sessions on Thursday to begin with.
Yeah, that's I've already figured out, because I know a lot of people that fly in from different places leave
like Wednesday or Tuesday in some cases.
Yeah, or leave at like 11 o'clock the last day, because that's when you have to check out of the hotel anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that is a reason why that last day of sessions is not very well attended, is because the people that fly in have to leave early. But
yeah, that's for you, NWA people. Start thinking of that. Put the good stuff not on the last day, but don't more or less make the poor last day people suffer because nobody's there.
Yeah, there might have been in Charleston. There might have been 100 people there. And I'm probably stretching it. Somebody who was there would probably correct me on that. But there weren't that many people, and there definitely weren't that many people when the end occurred. But it was a good thing that it had to end about 5 hours earlier than normal, so I could get back home, back down out of the mountains before the fog happened.
Yeah, and that's And the thing you have to worry about is with airlines, are there going to be delays? Is there going to be a storm somewhere?
Yeah.
And given October, who knows? There'll be a hurricane somewhere or something landfalling somewhere.
Yeah.
And knowing with Godzilla El Nino, there's probably going to be some Pacific system that'll go into the southwest, then blow into Oklahoma, and it's going to be like a flood or something.
Well, if that happens, I'll rent a car and drive home.
Oklahoma has had so many floods this year, and then I saw where Texas is starting to get a drought again.
Yeah.
It's Texas because they're not getting any rain. And speaking of the devil, Adam Caskey from San Antonio will be on next week. So we'll probably have to talk about that. He's on vacation right now. And I mentioned Death Valley. That's where he was yesterday. Showing off, it's 121. Yay! It's like, well, good for you. And he had to say, it's 20 degrees warmer than San Antonio, because San Antonio was 101. It's like yesterday, and it's like, goody for you. It's not that here. That's why I started thinking of that when we were talking about Carrie's video, because I thought of the 121 in Death Valley, because I saw that picture from him, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to talk about that next week. And about why he sends his family to Death Valley. So it's not where I would, it's a place I would want to go see, but not in the summer. Maybe in the winter when it's like cold, like 90 or 80. In fact, it's colder than that, but still.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we don't have, I know you don't have a shout out. I could shout out the LA Times thing or the ABC thing about Godzilla El Nino, but I don't want to because it's a bunch of hot air anyway. So, but I said it anyway, so it's nothing, not a big deal. But after Adam's episode, Skip Talbot is going to be back on tentatively on the 28th, which happens to be the exact date 25 years before when the Plainfield, Illinois F5 tornado hit. That's the tornado that's Plainfield is the suburb of Chicago, which is the only F5 or EF5 tornado in the month of August in this country, I think. Unless I'm thinking that I'm trying to think. I'd have to go and look. It might be one or two of one of them. But 1990 was just like the year, a bunch of year. It had 3 F5s that year, 1990. There was the 2 Heston tornadoes that were F5s, and then Plainfield in August. So we'll talk about that with him because Skip is in Illinois. And Skip is also going to possibly, if he's on, that's still tentative, something could happen, like an outbreak. We'll also talk about his little excursion that he had this year. We'll just leave it at that. So that's in 2 weeks. After that, we have other guests that are I'm trying to get put in somewhere. So other than that, you can get a hold of me. You pretty much know that by now. We're 70 episodes in. IWX on Twitter. IWX@gmail.com is my email. Mike, do your plugs.
You can find me on Twitter at WXMC. And no, I'm not a New Jersey radio station in Spanish. I hope they offer me a lot of money for that handle, though. You can find the weather blog that I produce every day during the week at tricitieswx.com. tricitieswx.com is how you can get to that.
Yeah, and you don't want to email him because I already know his email and you wouldn't understand it.
No, you would not. No, you would not. There's a contact link on the blog. Go there. That's the best way to get a hold of me because it'll go straight to me.
Or just tweet him and he'll respond.
Even better.
All you have to do is just mention the Chicago Cubs and he'll respond.
Yes.
But anyway, we got to stop because we want to try to get this shortened up so we're not here until the crack of dawn. So thanks for watching. We do this every Friday night. Mike will be back to doing baseball, I might mention, for a couple more weeks before he may come back, or he may be not on for a while longer. I don't know. But anyway, so join us again next Friday around this time. Well, not this time, around 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific for the next episode of Polygon. Good night. Have a great weekend, and God bless. And I got to shut it off. Bye-bye, everybody.